Good morning all. Welcome to our last Risk and Assurance meeting for 2025. Firstly, we are live for public. I have one apology from Councillor Bond. Are there any other apologies?
I have to leave at 10:50.
I hope we're finished by then, Councillor Lush.
Just putting it out there.
I'll move from the chair that apology be accepted. Thank you, Councillor Broad. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, abstentions carried. Thank you. We'll note the agenda and declarations of interest. Firstly, confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of 7th of November. Not a member of the committee, is it?
No.
You are. Apologies, Mayor Campbell. Over seconder. Thank you, Councillor Broad. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, abstentions carried. Thank you. Welcome, Peter. Thank you for your paper. Take us through. Are there any additional comments you want to make for the committee?
Just that this report informs the committee that strategic and operational risks are being identified, mitigated and reported, that the risk management framework supports informed decision making and our continued compliance with our regulatory and legislative obligations. And just also to highlight, in the new year there will be a review of the risk management framework and a workshop to set Council's initial risk appetite.
Councillor Pollinger.
Thank you, Chair. Right, that's the last bit. You mentioned risk appetite. Now, this is hard for me to understand because risk appetite is you've got financial risks, but you've also got risks like infrastructure decisions. You know, do you put in a 40-year cheap pipe or do you put in an 80-year better pipe? Now, you know, and hopefully we aren't making those decisions because we aren't qualified to understand which is the best decision there. I mean, we can have a report in front of us, but there's a huge amount of danger in letting 13 elected members, you know, choose such a major decision. And this is where this risk appetite I'm not happy with. You know, we should have you know, like LG&Z, or so, there should be a sort of a guide on where you sit, and you don't sort of juggle balls to find out whether you're going to roll the roulette wheel or, you know, that word risk appetite. I mean, I understand it in private business, absolutely, but not in a council's operation where you're dealing with public money. Someone explain it.
Through yourself, Chair, may I ask the Chief
Oh, yeah, no, I'll add on to you then, Peter.
Through yourself, Chair, I'll answer on behalf of my management. Risk appetite sets the levels from the governance level for the operations to actually set their structures in relation to spend profiles, health and safety risks as a classic example in relation to what level of risk can we and should is governance willing to allow us to take or not take, highlighting that we do operate in a reasonably risky environment in some of our aspects of our services. So we do need to understand what is that appetite, because it does actually dictate how much we'll spend. Noting that life risk associated health and safety is not an acceptable one from our perspective, so we would be pushing back in relation to those components, saying that is not a negotiable. But when it comes to, well, what level of protection measures do you want us to put in place? Well, that can be something that council sets the benchmark in relation to as part of their appetite. But in the financial ones, it can actually dictate what we spend on in relation to our infrastructure, I'm probably probably thinking off the top of my head in relation to those financial ones, but it's more around the use of external expertise. So what risk will you place on taking the financial advice or expert advice from the organisation as opposed to getting that supported and checked? So do you require to have 2 pieces of advice brought up, for example's sake, before you will accept that as a position? So the appetite actually dictates that from that perspective. So just highlighting that it's set at a governance, but it is based on advice that's brought to you at that workshop.
I mean, but obviously, in an infrastructure sense, there's 67 councils in New Zealand, and we're seeing stuff being done, and we know whether it works or not, because it's a very tight network. So we would obviously, hopefully, follow successful infrastructure tasks. When it comes to health and safety, there is no tolerance. I mean, that's understandable. So that appetite, there is no appetite. You either do it right or you don't. But with this other risk stuff, I just don't quite get it when it comes to infrastructure.
I'll come to Mayor Campbell.
I think it's always a mistake when we call risk by a risk appetite by a single phrase. You know, we say that we have low risk, a medium risk, or high risk. I mean, the reality is it has to be a matrix, doesn't it? So in circumstances where, it's a matrix based on probability and outcome, isn't it? So in situations where there is a low probability and a low risk outcome, then you might take a higher level of risk. Where the probability is high and where the outcome is worse, then you might take a low position in risk. So, I mean, health and safety is a classic one. We have got a very low tolerance for risk in that area. But I think it would be helpful, rather than when we do come to discuss it at council, or that, I mean, in terms of designing talking about risk appetite, that we don't try to describe it in a single phrase like low, medium or high. That we do it a little bit more sophisticated than that, by saying in these circumstances we have a low risk appetite, in these circumstances we've got higher appetite for risk.
Through yourself, Chair, happy to take that on board, and that will be how we approach it in relation to the workshop. Just noting with the health and safety component, there are services that we operate. You can't mitigate all health and safety risks associated from that particular service, and I give you the classic example which we always use in relation to our hydroslide. That by mere nature has its associated to it. We do our best to mitigate and put mitigation measures in place to have a controlled and safe environment, but by the mere nature of that particular service, it does have underlying risk associated to it, which is of a health and safety nature. And I'll take on board what the Mayor has put to bring forward to the workshop, because I believe that is how we plan on doing it in the workshop.
I'll just add that that's a similar process that I've been involved in before for other organisations, not just private, but other public entities. And I would presume we'll be having an external facilitator to run that. Thank you, Peter. I know that this council was part of One Risk Insurance prior to the previous triennium, so it'll build on and set the tone for this new council. Any further? Oh, sorry, I was going to ask also, have you got a proposed time frame? First quarter of...
First quarter in the new year, yes, Chair. Once that workshop's complete, then the risk management framework will be updated and brought back to the committee.
Right. Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'll ask someone please move that we receive the report and endorse the upcoming workshop. Thank you, Councillor Arnold. Thank you, Councillor Todd McNaughton. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, abstentions carried. Thank you. And while you're there, Peter, we'll move to internal audit and continuous improvement.
Yes, Chair, this report provides the committee with transparency on internal audit findings, continuous improvement initiatives. It also confirms that corrective actions are underway and supports strong governance, compliance, risk management. It highlights the ongoing progress in closing audit recommendations, updates to key policies and processes, and shows a commitment to continuous improvement and operational resilience across the organisation.
Thank you, Peter. Questions? From me, Peter, at what stage will have a draft program?
The March committee meeting, Chair.
Thank you. So I think that's the time that we'll look at it in a bit more further detail, and then reporting back on items following that.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Will someone please move that we receive the report and note the update? Thank you, Councillor Broad. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, abstentions carried. Thank you. Financial risks. Welcome, Jamie and Brian.
Cool.
Thank you for the paper, and make any comments for the committee.
So I'd just like to highlight that our, from a treasury side of risk side of things, so our core debt at the moment is 150 million. Our overall debt with the RGFA is 167. The difference of that being the loan funding we get down to pass on to Invercargill Central Limited. We've got a margin on top of that, so we actually make money out of that space. Overall, the debt cover is within policy. It will be a bit tight over the coming months as we actually bring in more debt to pay for some of the capital projects going on, but we'll be looking at doing swaps to match those off to keep us policy compliant. There is still the future potential breach down the track, but as part of the annual plan and long-term plan process, we will be reviewing our capital program and we'll revise that as the data comes available to that. A couple other things that have happened since the last report, our core facility. So we have renewed this with BNZ on the same terms and conditions as the last facility we had. So it's another 3-year cycle. Having a look at the rest of the market, BNZ was the clear option to use, not just because of the pricing, but also the availability of the funds. With BNZ being our bank that we operate with, the funds are a lot more accessible quicker than some of the other outfits. For instance, our GFA, there's actually a bit of a process to get that funding from them, and that can be potentially 24 or 48 hours before the funds actually hit our bank. Sometimes that is too late, depending what the circumstances. That core facility is a facility we very rarely use, but it is good to have just in case something does come out of the blue, or we are waiting for debt funding to actually be processed. And the other thing to note is insurance renewals. They have now been completed for the year. The overall value from a premium amount we pay is actually the same as what we paid last year at 3.5 million. Yes, we did make some savings through material damage and professional indemnity. However, some of the policy premiums have gone up on specialised liability risk, and the domestic care, which is the residential housing, has actually increased on those premiums. So they cancelled out our savings we were expecting to make. Any questions?
Questions, Councillor Pottinger.
Thank you. With the debt we have, the 150 or 167, whichever one it is, now, can you remind me, refresh my memory, what is the Three Waters debt? Because obviously that's going to have to go with Three Waters.
I don't have that figure off the top of my head. I can bring that back at the next meeting.
Well, it's more, and I'm more interested in what is not Three Waters, what's left over, and do we have the ability to fund that debt from our rateable base that is set up for non-Three Waters rating? I mean, do we have that all covered?
The existing debt, yes, and this is part of the LTP program going forward on how much debt we will need in the future. So we'll be able to, as we go through that process, we'll be able to bring back what our future
Right.
risk will be in a
So,
bit
say
of detail.
come sometime next year, and we split our books, and the same with insurances. Obviously, we've got insurances for roads and stuff, but we also have them for Three Waters.
Yes,
So,
that'll be
and
another
other
one.
assets, so that'll be split as well?
Yes, it will. Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, no, just very interested to know where we, especially with rates capping coming in, that we have, everything's under control and there's not going to be any shortage.
Yeah. At the moment, from an overall ICC position, we're covered, but this is a piece of work we'll be taking out early in the next year to split out the waters from the non-waters.
So I would imagine that would be classified a risk if we don't have that covered. Would that be right?
When the process actually takes place and gets underway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So
thanks.
they will need to be split.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Yeah, we're currently setting up a financial model for that ring fencing process. So as Jamie mentioned, we'll be allocating a significant amount of time to that next year onwards, and then we'll have a clearer idea of where the Three Waters position specifically sits.
Okay.
Yes, it's fine. Mayor Campbell.
The forecast debt and cover where it shows a potential breach between March 27 and March 28, my recollection of that when we spoke about it maybe 6 months ago was that that was intentional because we were hoping that the interest rates would fall and therefore we'd get a better rate for coverage in that time. Is that still the reason that remains?
That and also the delivery of the capital. So, for instance, in the annual plan for this year, we had $100 million of capital to be delivered. Potentially, that we may not deliver that 100, so we may not need as much debt as required, as shown in that graph. And if that does, the bands go lower, and then it may actually bring us back compliant.
But either
again.
way, the question I was asking was, it's intentional. It's not because we cannot get there, it's intentionally been left with that
Yes.
margin.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just an observation. Have you seen some changes around interest rates recently and opportunities for swaps?
Yes, the Reserve Bank decision the other day probably didn't help us with the parting comments from their chair. But we are still monitoring that every day, and Miles, our Bancorp advisor, is keeping an eagle eye on that at the moment for us.
All opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're currently investigating interest rate swaps with Miles from Bancorp. As Jamie mentioned, yeah, there was a recent spike in the swap rates following the ICR announcement, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, please ask someone to move that we receive the financial risks update. Mayor Campbell, thank you. Councillor Pottinger, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, abstentions, carried. Thank you very much. We're now going to move to public excluded, but included in that resolution, I'd like to include that Leslie Soper stays for the public excluded session. Given the decision tomorrow, I understand that she has signed a non-disclosure agreement in respect of the remaining of the meeting.
I'll second that, Chair, if you...
Thank you, Mayor Campbell. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, abstentions carried. Thank you.